Welcome to Ask Dr. Change. I'm Dr. Linda Ackerman Anderson. I'm happy to have you join me today to explore how to seriously up-level your leadership and consulting to transformational changes, all through conscious change leadership. Welcome to the next episode of the Change Leaders Roadmap Methodology series. Today we're focusing on Phase 2, which is about communicating to build commitment in your project community. This is really important. This is now the time to take all of the great work you did in Phase 1, generating clarity for your compelling story, to take it out to the organization, to inform and ultimately to engage their investment in the project coming forward. Phase 2 is really about the initial announcement, initial communication of the project. But it's more than just the tell. It really needs to be designed to communicate and generate their understanding in why we're changing, what we're changing, how big it is, and definitely commenting on the 4 quadrants and how they're involved in the project. How does mindset need to change, behavior need to change, culture, and of course, the content of the project. Really important for stakeholders to understand. Now, I just want to do another comment on your project community. It's more than just your stakeholders / end users. It's all those who need to be aware of the project, may want to influence it in some way, have a voice in it, or just be knowledgeable that what is going on in the organization fits with what they are doing. So the communication might be a lot broader than just your stakeholders. The critical activity, the only activity of Phase 2, is to build your project community's understanding and commitment to your desired outcomes, case for change, and change strategy, all of which you clarified in Phase 1. There are a series of tasks in this activity, the first of which is to clarify the project's expectations for required mindset and behavior change. Now, this is unique in this methodology. We're making it overt, the need to personally change mindset and behavior, and perhaps culture as well, which relate both to mindset and behavior, so that we're making it legitimate, overt, and letting stakeholders know and leaders know that they personally are involved in making changes for the project to be successful. So we're initiating clarification of the mindset and behavior changes embedded in the compelling story. The second task is develop your communication plan. Now, in Phase 1, in the change strategy work, you developed your communication strategy. And generally speaking, what your orientation would be towards communicating, how often, who would be doing it, how do we demonstrate we got communication. This is now your tactical communication plan. So where you created a roadmap for the first series of phases of your project, you would be identifying critical actions or tasks or events or benchmark areas where you need communications, who will do it, what the messages will be, how will you respond to input or feedback or questions. It's the tactical communication plan. The next task is about your engagement plan to build early stakeholder commitment. Now, we created the engagement strategy also as a part of your change strategy work in Phase 1. Here, you're developing the engagement plan. Now, engagement is task-driven, so very specific to what's going on, the actions required in your roadmap for the project plan. You'd be identifying critical areas where your stakeholders or any particular group or individual among your stakeholders or your influencers might need to be engaged. And by that, we mean asking for their input, getting their reactions, giving them something to think about or talk about or discuss to understand how they can influence it, how they can take ownership of it, what they might contribute in a positive or constructive way. So your engagement plan is designed early to build early stakeholder commitment. We typically wait for engagement until rollout, not in the Change Leaders Roadmap. Very early engagement of stakeholders in appropriate tasks, in appropriate stakeholder groups is critical to engaging and building on the energy required for your project to launch and be carried out. The next task is to actually then deliver the communication about your desired outcomes, case for change, and change strategy. So however you've designed the strategy to do this, is it the sponsor speaking, the change leadership team speaking, critical managers throughout the organization being fed the messages required for the project to be announced? Any of those strategies might be at play here. What's important here also is understanding how it all lands. And so communication isn't one way, it's at least two-way. So what are your stakeholders and influencers learning about, understanding about, have questions about, have reactions about? All of that is essential, especially the reaction piece, so you can begin to build in strategies for reducing negative impact on your stakeholders. So all of that can take place at this point. The last task of this activity is an important one, demonstrating that the old way of operating is gone. And so very often the challenge and resistance grows because people are attached to the current / old way of doing things. And based upon what your project is focusing on, you want people to know that that's going to be sunset, that's going to be dismantled. And so how do you go about demonstrating that? Lots of different ways of doing that. We have used bold actions where we've had funerals, we've had museums, showing respect for old states. Somehow you need to demonstrate that the old way of operating is gone. Now, in technology changes, what's key there is there are times when we're putting in a new approach, a new app, a new technology, and we keep the old one alive until the new one has its own legs. And so you might have that kind of a strategy. They run in parallel for a period of time until the old is actually shut down. Now, that's an important strategy there. So you'd come up with appropriate strategies for how to demonstrate we are not doing it that way any longer. Now, keep in mind your cultural dynamics, because all of these communications need to reflect the desired culture that you're attempting to embed or establish to support the sustainment of the desired outcomes of your project. And so how you do all of these tasks has to be a reflection of the aspired culture. And leaders need to understand, again, their mindset and behaviors at play here as they communicate and engage their stakeholders or their teams. Now, imagine how much easier the project would be when the work of these tasks has successfully landed, where your stakeholders understand, they see themselves in it, they find the relevance and meaning, they know how to contribute. All of that accelerates your project exponentially. And so this is a really critical phase to ensure the stakeholders of the organization and your influencers are as aligned as they possibly can be at this point. Knowing that you haven't done the actual design yet of what you're going to implement, that will require more communications. At this point, it's desired outcomes, it's your change strategy, and your case for change as to why this is so important to the success of the organization. I hope this has been useful to you. Again, you're tailoring what of this work we need to do, what of this work we don't need to do, and how to build your plan to accomplish what's absolutely essential to your project. I hope you've seen some value here, had an opportunity to compare how you typically bring out a project to the organization and expand your approaches. All the best in phase 2. We'll see you next time for phase 3. Thanks for spending some time with me today. I hope you gained some valuable insights for your work. Please send me your questions and challenges by going to askdrchange.com.